depression and anxiety enveloped me like they never had before. And I became very paranoid, ended up disappearing. Like I had turned off my cell phone, I didn't check my emails or Facebook, anything that I thought could be tracked at all. Yeah, that went on for 6 weeks.
In a world that feels like it's continuing to divide, where we're putting up walls against anyone different than us, and we avoid conversations because we're so scared of saying the wrong thing. Through this, we've lost our ability to connect and really understand one another. As someone who struggled to come out, I know how isolating it can feel to be defined by a label and misunderstood. Last season, I sat down with incredible people, and in just an hour, I learned so much more about them and how we can truly support one another. The tools we uncovered were powerful, showing how vulnerability and listening can bring us together. There are so many more stories to tell, and I'm excited to dive deeper this season.
So my name's Phil. I am a person with mental health struggles. I'm a gay man. I'm a bunch of other things though as well.
Yeah.
And it took me a long time to realize that.
Yeah.
That for a very long time, the labels were what I identified as.
Okay.
And sort of controlled my life. I work in mental health now to try to help spread the word. And my big goal is to really bring down stigma and shame.
Okay.
Because that was what had really stopped me from getting the support I needed.
Right. You just mentioned like for a long time you felt defined by those labels. What do you think changed?
I think what it was I hid the labels for so long.
Okay.
I wouldn't admit it to myself, wouldn't allow that to be me.
Right.
And then once I did decide to own it, I came out shortly after I turned 24. And once I came out, it was so liberating. And again, I came out in 1999, which in Calgary wasn't the greatest place.
No.
The easiest place to come out.
No.
Now I'm very lucky I didn't have any real negative experiences with it. But for the first few years, if I was meeting somebody new, it was literally, I'm Phil, I'm gay.
Okay.
Sort of, do you want to make a big deal about it?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that you brought that up because a lot of times people that don't hold certain labels, like we all hold labels, but ones that might have stigma to them or whatever, they're like, why do you have to state it? Right? Like, why, what's the need for you to say like, I am a lesbian or, right? And I think you summarize it so well is like, until we state it, you can't really let it go, right?
Yeah.
Because it's just on your mind. Like I was the same, like you meet somebody and that's just for me, it would be on my mind. Like, are they going to like me if they find out about this? Are they going to think I'm gross? Like, am I going to be able to continue a relationship with them? And then once they knew, then I'm like, okay, now I can relax, right? I'm like, so for me, that has been a big reason of stating it. Does that resonate with you at all?
It does.
Yeah.
I think another reason that I would do it at the time was because I hadn't told anybody and had all these relationships that I really never knew if those people would like the true me. I couldn't go through that anymore.
Yeah.
So that if somebody had an issue with it, it was somebody I didn't want to have a relationship with or friendship with or whatever. Yeah.
I ended up chickening out and I just sent a mass text.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It was like, I had the list for so long of like, these are the people I still need to tell. And then I would cross off names and with some of my friends who knew and were very like supportive. And I'm like, hey, if I don't do it by this time, you can smash a pie in my face. Like, I'm like, this is going to work for me. And then I was coming up to that date and I'm like, I can't, there's no way I can have a conversation with each of these people because the anxiety before and right. So I was just like, I'm going to text.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I came out before cell phones were a thing. Yeah. So texting was not an option.
That's not fair.
Yeah. And one thing I decided was I wanted to tell everybody in person, face to face.
Good for you.
Yeah. Which was not always easy. For the most part, I thought people would respond quite well. Both of my sisters had asked me.
Oh, really?
Before, yeah.
Okay.
My parents were the most difficult.
Okay.
But it actually really improved my relationship, especially with my father.
Yeah.
Yeah, that we'd had a strained relationship through my teens and early 20s. I really felt that that really was a turning point in our relationship. And I think I just made more sense to my dad after that. Yeah, that he could maybe understand me better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's nice to hear stories of the positive too, right?
Yeah,
That,
oh, for sure.
yeah, that the relationship got better. I guess with your struggles with mental health, did it feel the same in the sense of like revealing something about yourself to people?
Not at all.
No.
No. Now, and I, so was finally willing to get the help and go into the hospital and get the support I needed in a diagnosis
Yeah.
when I was 44.
Okay.
Yeah. So very different place in my life. And it was certainly not a surprise to anyone
Okay.
that knew me at all.
Right.
I'd gone through major depressions throughout my life that were really never labeled as that.
Right.
I had gone missing when I was living in Korea,
Okay.
teaching. What happened when I was 32? I'd been out for dinner with friends and had a 20-minute grand mal seizure, and had never had a seizure before. Was taken to the hospital. Was originally diagnosed with an aggressive form of brain cancer, apparently.
Oh, wow.
And was given a very short time to live, which was difficult enough to deal with. But I was also put on anti-seizure meds that I
Okay.
took as prescribed, and did not know at the time that one of the side effects of the meds can be depression.
Okay.
And over the next year, so depression and anxiety enveloped me like they never had before. And I became very paranoid, ended up disappearing. Like I had turned off my cell phone, I didn't check my emails or Facebook, anything that I thought could be tracked at all. Yeah, that went on for 6 weeks. And at that point I was, okay, like this isn't something that everyone goes through. Because up until then I could kind of rationalize it that way. Yeah, after 6 weeks I picked up the phone and called my mom and dad. My mom answered, and I'll never forget how she cried because they thought I was gone.
Yeah.
And my sister and husband actually came over to Korea and packed me up and brought me home.
Wow.
Yeah. But even then, I wasn't wanting to get a label. I
Yeah.
wasn't wanting a diagnosis because of the stigma behind it.
Yeah.
And the way mental health struggles are portrayed in the media, that I didn't want to let that be me.
Totally.
Yeah, that I wasn't violent. I wasn't somebody who wanted pity. I wasn't, at times I was unpredictable, but I was only ever dangerous to myself. Met with a therapist 5 or 6 times, and then just sort of went back about my life.
Wow.
Yeah.
Can I ask, like during
Yeah.
those 6 weeks, what was that like for you? Like turning off? Were you just going inward? Was it like?
Completely inward.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was probably sleeping 18 hours a day. I'd only go out at night to try to disappear even more.
Right.
I changed hotels about every 5 or 6 days because I thought that would help me not be able to be tracked as well for whatever reason. Was very inward, was very suicidal. the whole
Okay.
time. I think the only thing that sort of kept me going was the fear of hurting myself.
Okay.
Yeah. When I'm suicidal, I don't want to exist,
Okay.
but I don't want to hurt myself.
Okay.
Like physically, I don't want the pain.
Right.
Yeah. And the other thing was knowing how it would impact the people I loved, my
Yeah.
family, my friends. Yeah. And that was sort of what was able to keep me going.
Yeah. When you mentioned like not wanting to hurt the people like that you knew.
Yeah.
I had a friend who died, but it was from depression, right?
Mhm,
That's
mhm.
why he died. And it was funny because of the media and all of that. I remember before that happened that I thought, I did have those thoughts. It's like selfish but knowing him, it just, it was so different. I'm like,
Yeah.
he loved everybody. He cared for everybody. Like, there's no way, like, it was the realization that this thing was so big that didn't even stop it, right?
In a way, it's very easy for a person who's depressed to put on a happy face
Right.
when out in public,
Yeah.
and you would never know
No.
what they're actually going through. That's how I spent most of my teens.
Right.
Again, there was really no reason for it,
Yeah.
other than the way my brain is.
Right.
right? Like I was a good student. I was active in sports. I edited the yearbook. I had a good family. I had friends. Like I
Yeah.
checked all the boxes I was supposed to.
Right.
But nobody had any idea
Yeah.
that almost every night when I was alone in my bedroom, I would just crumble.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I imagine that would feel so lonely and
It can be very isolating. Yeah.
yeah.
And so I was going through that at the same time, trying to struggle with my sexuality,
Right.
which was also very isolating.
What was the point where you were like, okay, things need to turn around a little bit? Like,
For my mental health?
yeah.
Yeah. So after I'd come back from Korea, had my counseling sessions, I started working part-time in a tutoring agency and worked my way up till I was running one of the centers. And it was fantastic. I was helping kids,
Right.
helping families. And that wasn't enough
Right.
to keep depression at bay. I spent about 5 months using my bedroom window as my main entrance and exit because I was convinced the woman who lived above me was out to get me.
Wow.
And then one night, December 4th of 2018, there was a knock on my door. And I don't know who it was, but that was my breaking point.
Oh, wow.
That was it. And I went to the pharmacy after about 20 minutes because I had plans in place after I'd been suicidal off and on for 30 years at that point.
Wow.
So fortunately, they don't sell what I wanted over the counter. And I sort of walked home totally broken. And I was walking the streets in the cold and snow in tears because I think it was the first time I was really, truly able to admit to myself that this isn't something everyone goes through.
Right.
That like I looked at my friends and saw my friends and family who were able to be sad, but it was an emotion,
Right.
not a complete overwhelming state of being. And it would pass. Whereas for me, it would last for years.
Right.
Yeah. So I called my sister, and she came and got me and took me to Foothills Emergency.
Okay.
And I was there for about 48 hours before they transferred me over to the PLC, the Peter Lougheed Center. And I say it is the best thing that ever happened for me. And what I sort of say is I drank the lemonade.
Right.
Because it had to work.
Yeah.
Because I had no other plans at that point.
Right.
Yeah, I had nowhere to go.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was like the breaking point.
It was.
Yeah.
And it was a knock on the door was literally what changed my life.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm thinking about a lot of things about the loneliness of it, of feeling like nobody else can understand, but how much harder it would be too for you in the sense where you're like, my life looks good, right? There's no reason for this, like for me to be feeling like this if I look from the outside, which I don't know, like I feel like that would be confusing too and frustrating maybe.
So once I was like in my mental health recovery journey, I was taking an arts and crafts class specifically for mental health. And this was what we made the first day.
Okay.
I was there was a mask. And it was very cathartic to me to be able to like make this mask and feel like, okay, I'm taking off this happy face.
Right.
I'm taking off this facade that I've worn for so long.
Right.
And letting people see the real me.
Yeah.
Right. The person that struggles with depression.
Yeah.
With delusions, with anxiety.
Was that like a weight lifted off when you...
It really was.
Yeah.
Prior to the knock on the door night, I would never talk about the stuff I'd gone through, the difficulties I'd had. I think a lot of it was I carried a lot of shame around it.
Right.
Because of the stigma that is out there. And then once I was just like, okay, enough is enough.
Yeah.
That I've wasted how many years of my life, or lost how many years of my life to this. So my sister dropped me off at the ER, and she came back and told me she'd called her other sister and asked her to call mom and dad to tell them what was going on. And I guess my sister in Ottawa said, is like, well, what do I tell them? And my other sister's answer was, well, how about the truth?
Right.
Like, we've pretended this isn't an issue for so long.
Right.
So my label wasn't just me.
Right.
Right. It was everyone around me, because I refused to to actually name it and own it, that everybody
Totally.
else felt they needed to as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then it almost gives it so much more power
it can.
with
Yeah.
the shame and the secrecy and
Right.
like,
Yeah.
all of that. You also mentioned with other people, they can feel sadness and then it comes and it goes.
Yeah.
With you, like, how does it feel when you're in that place?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I've got a friend and colleague who describes depression as having an elephant sitting on your chest,
Okay.
because you want nothing more than to be able to move
Right.
and keep going, but it's just too big. You just can't move it. And for me, that is quite apt,
Right.
that I can find the energy for maybe an hour or two a day,
Okay.
and that's about it.
Right.
And because there are a number of different kinds of depression that people experience, it may affect everybody differently.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's too with the series where like everybody who's speaking is speaking for themselves.
Right. Yes.
And it's
yeah.
not like this is everybody, and it might just give some insight to someone, but it doesn't mean somebody else who has depression, this is the journey, this is how it looks.
Yeah.
But hopefully just gives a little bit of understanding.
So yeah, I guess for me, the depression is hopelessness.
Yeah.
You can't really see anything in the future.
Okay.
So like planning or anything is very difficult.
Right.
Yeah, lack of energy, lack of desire to do much of anything.
Yeah.
Almost like a passive participant in my own life.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I like that analogy, like with the elephant, because it's not what you want.
Right? Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that stigma, I know people in the past who I know, and they couldn't go to work and stuff. And
Yeah.
some people look down upon it, and the understanding wasn't brought there. What would you say to people who are believing that? Like,
I know in my 20s, I had what I would call two major depressions. The first one resulted in me withdrawing from a master's program, because it was an inability to try to balance my mental health struggles
right.
with the responsibilities of school. Yeah. And then the second one, I actually lost my job. Yeah, because again, I was trying to work. I was trying to do the job.
Yeah.
I just didn't have the ability to do so at that point. It was a job I really, really enjoyed, that I was good at.
Yeah.
And I'd been good at it for quite a few years. And then once depression hit, then it was like, okay, well, we don't need you anymore.
Wow.
Yeah. I was doing guest spots on a national TV show. I was doing radio call-in shows
Wow.
as an expert. And yeah, just a couple months of not being able to handle things. It's not what support can we give you?
Right.
What can we do? It's, we're gonna find somebody else. Yeah, good luck to you, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And everything that you did beforehand doesn't even matter.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Are there signs like when, what would be the terminology, I guess? Like you said, like episodes or depression, like
I just
Can't
call them my
remember.
depressions.
your depressions?
My
Okay.
bigger depressions,
Like
yeah.
I can't remember
Yeah.
that. So when the depressions are coming, like are there signs before, or does it just hit? Like it's quick? and-
Well, so mine tends to be a slower descent after I'd been in the hospital, and I couldn't keep living like that anymore.
right.
So I took a bunch of classes to learn the skills that I had never learned, because up until then it was just hide it, pretend it doesn't exist, don't talk about it. That was my only coping strategy.
Right.
So one of the things in one of the courses that we actually did was there was a drawing of a pit on a page,
Okay.
and you had to think about, as you start to go down further and further into your depression, what does that look like for you? What do you experience? Because
Right.
it's so personal, and it was an incredibly powerful tool for me to actually take the time to think about that.
Yeah.
When I quit cooking for myself,
Right.
that's one of the first signs
Okay.
that I'm fine with going out to eat fast food a lot more often. And then a little further down, I start to withdraw. So I stop checking my phone as often.
Right.
I don't return text messages, that sort of thing. But so now I have plans put in place with all those different things.
That education piece sounds like it's so important then, but knowing yourself, like it has to be so personal to you.
Absolutely. I took a 6-week, pretty intensive course and was told at the start, if we teach you 1 or 2 strategies in those 6 weeks that work for you, we've done our job. And like part of my plans, like I've got a coworker who has my sister's number, and she knows the symptoms to watch for.
Right.
And if you see this, this, or this, send her a message. Giving people the permission to do that.
Right.
Because if I've gotten to that point, I'm not going to do it for myself.
Yeah.
What I say now is that if I ever go into another major depression, I'm going to go kicking and screaming.
Okay.
Yeah. I was having a bit of a tough time towards the end of last year. And was talking to my supervisor, and she was just like, I don't think I know anybody else who is better at advocating for their own mental health. And I'm like, well, it took me a long time to get there, so I appreciate that. I will own that.
And for other people to get there would be incredible.
Absolutely.
But I'm sure it's such a journey, but not only for you, but for society, right? Like if you're in a workplace that is like, okay, and you're done, right? Like, oh,
and we still have those in Calgary.
Oh, 100%. I've seen it for sure. Yeah, like, oh, you're starting to feel more depressed. Like, okay, here's your notice. We need to build places that are like what you have, where we care about each other, we're kind, we're like not thinking that this person is wanting attention or like, or a day off. It's like this person needs help, and how can we support one another? Have you seen any movement towards companies opening up, like becoming more supportive?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. Part of my job, like I work in mental health now, and part of my job is actually going out to organizations and giving impact speeches, where I share my story and I talk about how shame and stigma stopped me from getting support. And I've had VPs and CEOs who have come up to me after and talked about their struggles or struggles in their family. So I think the shift is coming a little more slowly than I'd like, of course. And now I'm just so over all of that, over the shame and the stigma, that this is just part of who I am. I say if there's a pill I could take that would just get rid of all my mental health struggles, that I don't even think I would take that.
Okay.
And change my past and everything.
Yeah.
Because this is who I am.
Right.
Right. And those experiences are made me who I am.
Yeah.
And I quite like myself.
Good.
Yeah.
And that's a journey.
It took me a long time to get there.
Yeah. Can you go into a little bit more about the shame and stigma, about how that stopped you from reaching out, and any moments or anything?
Talked about how I grew up in Saskatchewan,
right,
in a very, very rural community. And in the 80s, not an easy place to be gay. I think the shame and stigma I had around that. And I had no role models, right, on TV or media or anywhere for that. So that was where I learned to hide it, pretend it doesn't exist. Then as I got older and started having the mental health struggles as well, the portrayal of people. And like I didn't want to end up in a hospital, right? Like for 20 years or whatever it could have potentially been. I didn't want to be somebody who was going to be the butt of jokes because of it, because I'd heard that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. I like that you say that, because that is why you're speaking now, because maybe somebody can see you speaking and being so open and be like, okay, I can get help too.
Right.
And it's not going to like end up with all of these things, right? They see you sitting here and talking about it openly and in a way where you like yourself, that there's some hope there, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that, like I say, I wouldn't change my past, but I wouldn't wish my past on anyone else.
Totally.
Yeah. If I can help people to realize that you don't have to go through it in that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that if you are in a work environment where it's not okay, then maybe that's not the best work environment for you.
Right.
Yeah.
When it comes to work environments, what changes would you like to see?
There's organizations now that actually train people as peer supporters.
Okay.
So somebody you can just connect with, talk about what's going on, like without judgment.
Okay.
They're not therapists. They're not going to tell you what to do.
Yeah.
But they can also help you navigate HR
Okay.
They can help you get referrals to where if you need external helps as well.
Yeah.
So you don't have to just go in your office and close the door and pretend everything's okay.
Right.
And somebody sort of walk beside you.
Okay.
Right. So things like that, where
That's
when you found out
beautiful.
you're not alone.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And I think too, like there's such power in knowing that your company is behind a program like this.
Right.
So if they're behind a program like this, then hopefully they'll be behind me too. Is there anything you would like to say, I guess, to companies or people running companies?
It's funny because I work in mental health.
Right.
I hate the term mental health
Oh, do you? Okay.
because mental health is just health.
Right.
I don't talk about arm health.
Yeah, you're so right. You're
Right?
so right. Yeah.
If I had broken my leg, there'd be no discussion if I need a bit of time off.
Yeah.
If I was going through cancer treatment,
Right.
right, that it would be, how can we support you?
Right.
What can we do? But suddenly you have a mental illness,
Right.
and it's just not treated the same.
Yeah.
It's in so many ways, which really, really upsets me. I was doing a tour where I work a couple months ago. Somebody there in the tour asked me if I was on medication and what my thoughts about that were.
Yeah.
And yeah, I am currently, and probably will be for most of my life now.
Right.
And what I said to this person was, if I had a headache, I would take Advil.
Yeah.
Right? If I broke my leg, I would go get a cast. If I had diabetes, I would take insulin.
Totally.
But this is just how my brain is,
Yeah.
and that's what balances out my body,
Totally.
right?
Yeah.
Which is, so what I would say to an organization is just treat mental health like health, because that's all it is.
Yeah. And that's so simple, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
If you look at it the same way, okay, if this person had cancer, what would we do?
Right.
If somebody says, I don't want to struggle with cancer, everyone's like, of course,
Yeah.
because the stigma is not there.
Yeah.
And I hope that it's opening up. And
I think
You
it
know?
is. I think it is. When I can go out and a couple years ago, I did an impact speech with a couple hundred rig workers,
okay.
and it was quite scary
Yeah.
because I opened my speech with talking about that I'm gay and how I had my coping strategy and that sort of thing. And at the end of it, I got a standing ovation.
Wow.
Yeah. So I think society is changing.
What do you think resonated with people when like in that situation,
Yeah.
when you're talking to people that you're like, oh, they might not accept this? What do you think resonated?
Well, a big part of that was they have a fundraiser every year because they actually lost a colleague to suicide.
Okay.
So it was somebody they knew well.
Yeah.
And again, somebody who had put on a brave face the whole time,
Right.
and nobody actually knew what was going on. So I think just seeing somebody who could come and talk about it vulnerably and bravely,
Yeah.
to try to break down, to hopefully, so they don't have to lose more people.
Totally.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, a lot of times it takes a personal tie to it, right?
It does. It does.
To then be curious and be
Yeah.
open, and good for you though.
Yeah.
That's super brave.
Thank you. I'm so glad I can do it now.
Yeah.
Because like I said, I don't want to change my past, but I don't want other people to have to go through it.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if sharing my story can just help one or two people, then it makes it worth it.
What would be your advice to people who have somebody in their life who is dealing with depression?
Remember that that is not the whole person. They may not be able to do what they did before,
Yeah.
for a while, but that you can still be in their life, but it doesn't have to just be about the mental illness. You might have to adapt what your relationship looks like.
Okay.
Instead of going out for coffee, pick up coffee and go over to their place.
Okay.
And if they're wearing the same clothes they have been wearing for the last 2 weeks and their place is messy, don't make a big deal about it.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I'll guarantee you that they know what's going on.
Right.
Yeah. And the last thing they probably want to do is talk about it.
Okay.
Be there for them if they want to talk about whatever they're going through, but sort of let it be on their terms.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. And I think that's what everybody wants, is just someone to be there,
Absolutely. Right?
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Without judgment.
Without judgment.
Yeah.
Because I have spent enough time judging myself.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
yeah. Okay. It's such a good line. All of us.
Yeah, right.
We're our worst critics.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So we know, like, we make a mistake. We know we made a mistake, right?
Yeah. And we're making a far bigger deal about it than anybody else.
Totally.
Yeah.
So you don't need somebody pointing that out to you too. What message do you wish you heard as a young boy?
I wish I'd heard other people talking about their mental health struggles.
Yeah.
And I wish that it was sort of normalized.
Yeah.
Yeah. To let me know I wasn't alone.
Right. What would you tell your little self?
I would tell my 3-year-old self that it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to admit you're having struggles. And it's okay to be who you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Thanks so much.
Well, thank you. It was fantastic. And you, it was a great conversation.
Yeah.